the 1 o'clock hour.
Welcome back, everybody.
We're excited to be here. Of course, we're going to start with all of our little announcements and our housekeeping of what we did this last hour.
Thank you.
This is Dr. Pascavage, and I'm Diane McCleary, and we have been with you since 8 o'clock this morning.
Yep.
And we've got a few more hours to go.
We do indeed.
So for those of you that are just joining, we want to catch you up. We are actually celebrating our 60th anniversary this year. And so we're excited. We have lots of little things planned throughout the year. We've got a really nice surprise coming in just a few minutes.
Oh, yeah.
I want to say first that we have raised $6,725 in the last hour.
That's a good hour for us.
We have some other things to offer. We are up to 70 donors today online through this process, which is that's kind of neat. We have let's see, $100 value, I guess is the way to say it, gift card from Cammy's for a half gallon of ice cream for a whole year every month.
Well, that's nice.
That is nice. So for our next $500 donor, we'll do that. We have a $50 Meat Boss gift card for our next $300 donor.
That's nice too.
That one's really nice.
Yeah.
And we got a call, and we have a match to offer from the Finley family with all-weather roofing.
Wonderful.
Another $5,000 match.
Terrific.
So we need everybody out there to Venmo us at St. Luke's Episcopal School, and the PIN number's 3981. So that's case sensitive. We are encouraging people to text to give this year. They can text to 76278, and they just need to text SLES Wildcats.
Yep.
And we have to do the capital SLESW, but it's SLES Wildcats to 76278. They can still call Tracy Taylor. She's out there working the phones for us and taking credit cards. 251-591-5774. So looking forward to another exciting hour on here, and the guests you've got lined up this hour are going to be a lot of fun.
Listen,
like, I'm going to sit out there and just laugh.
With no offense to the guests that we've already had or the guests that we will have, this is the best. Right
the
now,
most
this
fun
is the
hour.
one I'm looking forward to the most all day. So
others had a lot of good information. This was just going to be fun.
It should be fun. Yeah.
Great. Well, then I'm going to back out, and Amanda Cassie and I have a little something we want to hold up in the background when you talk to your next guest.
Okay.
All right.
So I'm going to ask that guest, Whitney Hornbuckle, to come on in and have a seat. So, Whitney, thanks for being here.
It is an honor. It's
today.
An honor to be here.
So tell me a little bit of the background behind how this got done. Someone reached out to you and said, we have this idea. Would you be interested? How did that go?
They did. I just want to let you know that I used to be a teacher here, an English teacher here, and I had my first baby and was planning on coming back, and then I had another baby. And I started a small business from home, and so it's so incredible how the faculty and staff here, they never lost touch with me. So even after I wasn't on this campus anymore, I was very much a part of the family, and I've always felt supported. And Miss Tracy and Miss Diane specifically have always kept in touch with me, have always checked on me. And so when this really important occasion occurred, the 60-year celebration, I mean, what an amazing thing to celebrate education. They approached me with doing this next project that they're going to show to you. One of the biggest pieces of art I've ever done, but
so this is the original.
This is the original. This is the original work on paper. It starts all hand drawn, and then watercolor paint is added, and also some archival pen and ink is added. And what I love about this project is I'm a very sentimental person. I'm going to scoot out so you can see. But I'm a very sentimental person, and memories mean so much to me. And in creating this project, I just got swept back up in everything St. Luke's and all the wonderful traditions, because there are a bunch of schools. But the traditions that you hold on to are what make every school unique and special. And the deep dive that I had to do going back into the school's history to create all of this imagery just made me realize what a wonderful school history that you have, and what the wonderful things that are offered to students, the wonderful memories they're able to make with faculty and staff, and with each other, with their friends. So
Could you talk briefly about how all of this came together? I mean, when you look at this carefully, it seems like there's not a whole lot that was left out, and yet the way that it's organized and the way that you've laid it out, it seems like it all just fits perfectly. So what was the process behind putting this on paper?
So the process for me is, the first thing that I asked them was, oh my goodness, first of all, I said thank you for trusting me to do this for you. It's such an honor. And the second thing, where we get started was, I need a list. I need a list of what's special to you. I need a list of what is special to the history of the school, what teachers remember, what they think about, what's important to students. Even when they're gone, what do they remember? So a list was created, and then the list, as you can see, grew. So I started off with a list, and then I would get a text. Is it too late to add more? We thought of some more wonderful things. And then Miss Diane and Miss Tracy came to visit me to look at it in person. They're like, oh my goodness, we're looking at this and we've left out more. That's a good problem to have.
Right.
Your history is very rich, and
right.
So the ability to add layers to this, I mean, we could have added more, but this is where we stopped.
So it's a popular thing nowadays, and it certainly didn't start with the Marvel films, but I think that's where it's sort of become, I think, most popular, to look for Easter eggs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Things that are hidden in
Yes.
the movie that carry meaning, but that are not necessarily front and center.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone's watching the film and they don't know to look for it, they might not ever see it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing that there's at least one or two Easter eggs in here. Could you point to something that most folks might not notice or wouldn't immediately recognize, but that you wanted to make sure was included because of its special meaning to you or to others?
Oh my goodness. Oh gosh, there's so many. It's kind of like asking, when you're a creator or when you're a mom, it's like if someone's like, which is your favorite child? I don't know and I don't want to say.
Right.
But for me, I really love architecture, and it's not much of an Easter egg because to me it's front and center, because I taught on this campus, and so the gazebo was always a fixture for me.
Right.
It was a place where the students gather. I'm a person that likes to sit, think, and gather with people that I like. So that was a really important thing for me to include, just because of, it's one of my, when I think of this campus, that's what I think of. I try to organize it by, well, obviously there's Mother Oak, but if you'll notice, there's kind of a Japonica. This is the Japonica campus side. This is the university side. So what I thought was, Mother Oak, I love the idea that the branches are spreading and creating shade. So under a tree you rest, and there's growth there, and so I wanted that to be the focal point. And at the top, because everything has happened underneath that. So everything has unfolded underneath the shade of Mother Oak. That's in the, oh my gosh, the alma mater. I almost said alumni mater. That's not correct. So, and then you have the beautiful iron gates opening. And so all of these things are unfolding. And then you have the red doors of the Japonica campus, which are iconic and special. And it's open, signifying out of this comes all of these wonderful things. So you have a lot of the Spring Festival, you have the yearbook down here, the seal, the precious little acolytes, I love them. You've got the trail made with the azalea hidden in here, fall festival activities. I mean, just so, it is a trip down memory lane. And what's great about this is these are icons that are pretty generalized, but depending on who you are and what your experience was here, I feel like you can look at it and have a different experience.
Oh, sure. So I've seen this now a number of times,
Okay.
and every time I look at it, I see something that I never noticed before. So let me ask you. I think this says, is that number 76? Is that what that says?
It's actually not, but if you think that
Okay.
it has special meaning, then
Well, that's what I looked at. I was going to ask if it
as
did.
Bob Ross, the other artist, would say, happy accident.
Okay. Okay. I was wondering what the. I'm sure that someone
I'll
can
take
tell
credit
me
for
why
that.
that now should be significant. Well, I'm sure that what she meant was this. You're proud of this, aren't you?
I am anything that brings me back, anything that gets me in conversation with people that I form relationships with, just means so much to me. So yes, I am proud, but I was just proud to be asked, proud to be considered for this special project.
You should be proud of this. It's fantastic.
Thank you.
And the fact that it has special meaning for you makes it, I think, all the more special. But we're grateful for the time and inspiration that went into this. This will be enjoyed by people
I'm so happy.
For decades to come.
Yes, I'm so happy. And I'm happy that it's here and not on my dining room table. I work from home, and so my family was like, "Are we eating in the dining room tonight?" No, we're not. not until this baby gets delivered to its home. So, yes, I'm so glad that it's here. I can't wait to come back when it gets framed and hung up. And I think it's going to be available for other people to have in their homes, right?
That's right.
At some
That's
point.
right.
So, yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So
Thank you
wonderful.
so much. Thank you for having me. I
Thank
really
you very much,
appreciate
Whitney,
it.
for
And it's
coming
nice
and
meeting
doing
you.
this. Good to meet you as well.
Thank you.
Really something. Really something.
More guests?
More guests.
I'll go grab them.
Now, I don't know that it's possible for us to identify a more distinguished trio of guests than the group that's coming in momentarily. The combined years of service to St. Luke's that this group represents, I mean, we can do the math shortly, but you couldn't find three more people who would have a sum of combined years that would exceed this group. So it's
That's
really
right.
sort of a special group.
Nor more stories to tell, I'm sure.
We were talking a little while ago about how we could probably do a 2-hour production that was just about the stories that these three individuals could tell.
All right. Well, they are here, and I'm sure we can all hear them coming in. So I'm going to scoot
Let's
out
hope.
and let's bring them in, because this is our celebrity guest for the hour.
Right? You can sing if you want to, absolutely. Come on, so, well, we need you to sit over here, right?
Okay.
I'm going to slide my chair down. We'll all kind of get cozy. So, why don't you go ahead.
All right, there you go, Sandy. All right, here we go.
So, thank you all for agreeing to do this. When was the last time the three of you sat down together?
Not too long ago,
Okay.
actually, on your boat. Yeah, we took a boat ride.
Ah, okay. So there's more that goes on with the three of you than just things that happen at
Yes,
St.
we
Luke's.
can't talk about all of
Well,
it.
that's good to know, and I won't ask you about any of those things.
There's
So-
some secrets there.
So, if you would, just do we have to get little? Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Are we in close enough?
She's in it. No,
I don't need to be in it, so that's fine.
you're in it.
Good. Macy, if we can start with you, tell us when you started at St. Luke's and what you did when you started. What was your role when you were first here at St. Luke's?
Well, I started in 74. That's 1974. And my role was, actually, I taught all middle school boys and girls, and I had a kindergarten class. And I did not have a break. And about midway through the quarter, I knew that everyone had a break but me, and I went to the office and got that covered, got that taken care of. But I did the boys' PE and the girls' PE.
Okay.
Oh, where?
Basically at Japonica, and our little gym was the first room on the left in what's now the preschool building.
Wait. So
So
your,
we had no
your
gym.
gym was
A room.
a room in one of the classroom buildings.
And when I first got there, I asked to see the equipment, and everybody had a funny look. And when they showed me what we actually had 2 balls, one bounced and one did not,
Okay.
and a set of bowling pins. And so I just started from there. We had no athletics, of course, and we had PE in that little room. And on rainy days, I strung a net up, and we would play indoor volleyball with the beach ball, or play charades, or whatever. We had to be real quiet because all the teachers were teaching around us, so it was tough. And on pretty days, we'd go outside. play all the sports, volleyball, everything, archery, flag football.
You made it work.
Made it work.
Yeah.
In the classroom.
Susie, how about you? When did you start?
Started in 1989. My oldest one came, though, to St. Luke's in 1982. Like Sandy, we had kids before we started working there. And when I came, I started the Spanish program. We had Spanish in the middle school, but we did not have it in the lower school. And I didn't have a classroom to myself. I was a traveling teacher. I had a cart that I rolled around. And my little puppets. Kids will remember my little puppets that I did, my little hand puppets. Roscoe and Rosita. That was their names. And I don't
What are
know.
they doing now?
You know, I willed them over there, but I don't know if they're still around or
We'll
not.
have to check that out.
Somebody needs to find those.
But they were there, and I had a little place in the library that I called my desk. And Emily Bowell was the librarian at that time, and she was my mentor, because I was like, I had been in high school before I had come to teach at St. Luke's, so I didn't know what little people did, so that was a real awakening for me. But I built the program over there, and then stayed there 20 years till we came over here. So it's been an adventure.
It has been.
How about you?
Well, I started out as a St. Luke's mom. In 1978, a friend of mine said there's an opening at St. Luke's. You need to put Rob here. So I met with Miss Carson in a little house, little wooden house.
Yeah.
Didn't take a tour, didn't have to take a tour. It was reputation is why you went to St. Luke's. Fell in love with it, put my other two boys there, my niece, my two nephews, 6 grandchildren. And for the first 10 years at St. Luke's, I was just a mom, a room mother, volunteered in our first aid room, if y'all remember the first aid room, and a substitute teacher. And my husband said one day, "You're up there so much, they just ought to give you a job." And I came home one day and I said, "Got that job." And that was in 1989, same time.
We came together.
Okay.
Yep, been there ever since. Love it.
And each of you are obviously still involved with St. Luke's in various ways.
Absolutely.
But you're not teaching anymore, right?
I never taught.
You never taught.
No,
Always
I
the
always
voice.
been in that office on that phone, greeting parents and children. I've always said that you treat people like they're your company at your house, and so that's what I love
And you
about
do
it.
that, I can
love
tell
it.
you.
She does do that.
She does
I
it
can
very
tell you.
well.
No, I did not teach. I've just been in the office all those years.
So then, let me flip that around a little bit. Each of you is basically doing the same thing that you were doing when you started, right? Because Susie, you're still teaching Spanish, right? Macy, you're still teaching PE.
I am. But back then, we had no athletics, so, I was involved in starting the athletic program at St. Luke's.
She's the athletic director.
And I was athletic director for 20 years. And with the middle school program, we had the little kids that were in a CYO program. But I think that it was St. Luke's and maybe 2 other schools met together and started the Christian Athletic Association. We had about 8 to 10 schools around Mobile Christian, those kind of schools. We had a fabulous athletic program for this age group. And that was after the gym was built. So, and then after a while, I sort of dropped out of that. Coach Greenland came in and he became athletic director. But I was that for 20 years. At first, in fact, when we first started athletics, I was doing everything, and after about 3 years, I said to myself, I think this is what people get paid to do. I think this is a position that I'm doing a freebie. And
Your instincts were spot on.
And so I went in and like I did with the kindergarten class, and like I wasn't a kindergarten teacher, so help me out with this. And
I know.
and so I got a little salary, so that was nice. So it was fun. And before we started athletics, I had with the 8th graders, we had a PE club. And that was really a lot of fun because we would meet every month or I don't know how often we met, maybe every week. We would go on a field trip every once a month.
Okay.
And we went to Pontchartrain Beach in New Orleans. We'd go horseback riding, bowling, skating, those kind of things that they weren't able to do. And when athletics started, I stopped the PE club and got a lot of flack for it because the kids loved it. They had the president of the club, it was like
Right.
a great little organization, but we just couldn't do
Sure.
both. And so, to this day, I have kids fussing at me because you stopped that PE club when I was in 7th grade, and I
Right.
wanted to do that. But I'm basically doing exactly the same thing PE-wise, you know. And I still love it. I mean, I'm having a hard time quitting because you're just gonna have to boot me out.
Well,
All three of us.
You and I talked about that actually, right? Last
I was
spring,
concerned about it.
you came to my office
I did.
and you said, Dr. P, could we talk about my contract and next year what you have in mind and what you thought? And I said, Macy, you can decide whatever you want to do. That's what you're going to do. That timetable is completely yours, as it should be after the years of service that you've given to the school.
Absolutely.
Have you scaled back at all this year from what you've been doing?
What, teach-wise, what I teach?
Sure.
No.
You haven't.
I mean, I can't do the things I did when I was 25.
None of us can. So
But
it's
if
okay.
I need someone to demonstrate something that I used to demonstrate,
Right.
come here, Susie, come here, show them. I'm gonna-
And my boys who had you for PE and talk about how tough you were, always ask her the same thing when they see her. Why do we have to learn the rules about tetherball? What is that going to do
Uh-huh.
for us? Don't they?
Yeah,
Do you remember those questions?
I do.
Do you remember the answer? What was the answer?
Oh, well, I tell them this to this day. One day you're going to be a parent, and you're going to be in the backyard with your child,
That's a good answer.
and you're going to remember some of the things you learn in here, because they don't like to do the skill tests and written tests and stuff.
The
And I still do all that, because it's
From the notebook, red notebook.
a notebook. So the way I look at it, if you're going to teach something, you have to break it down and teach the skills in order to do that game. You have to. Because there's a lot of kids that come from other schools that didn't go through our program and really don't know too much about the skills of different sports. So they fuss, but when it's all over, they're fine.
You know, an easy question to ask, and probably an easy question for you to answer, would be for me to say, so tell me what's changed over the course of the decades that have passed. I'm not going to ask you that question, okay? I'm going to ask you a related question, but a different one. Tell me what hasn't changed. What hasn't changed in all of the decades that you've been affiliated with St. Luke's and the various roles that you've had? What still feels to you like it's very much the same as it was in 1974 or 1989?
Well, for me, I think this is such a family. This school is my family. And I know my daddy, after about 5 years, I taught 2 years in public school, and I came here, he said, you're going to have to get back in public school because you won't believe how fast retirement comes, and we need to have retirement. I said, Daddy, I just can't do it. I love this school, and I will stay here, till they tell me no more. But that's
We die
to me.
first, whichever comes first.
And like I taught Susie's boys and girls, Ginger, and I taught her boys, and we're a family. I mean, those kids are my kids. And that has never changed. The day I walked on campus, it was that way, and it's still that way.
Yeah, I think that's true. That you got generation after generation.
We see
She's
them
got my
come back.
grandkids
Right,
now.
right.
That she's taught my grandkids. I have taught many generations now myself, and I've watched them. They'll say, "You taught my dad." And I sure did.
Grand student.
That's right. I have grand students.
And
Maybe
I-
some great grand students.
And I'm proud of that. I mean, people say, don't you feel old? I don't feel old. That makes me young. I feel proud that I'm still teaching at my age, and I still enjoy it. The other day, Kelly Hulak, what's her name?
She's Thompson.
Thompson.
She's Fletcher's
She's
wife.
so
She
good. And
married to St. Luke's.
I taught her, and I taught her husband. They both went to St. Luke's. And I said, Kelly, we're doing flag football. Remember, just like we did when you were here. And she said, yes, I remember. So a lot hasn't changed, but, of course a lot has.
Yeah.
But it's a family to me.
The feeling of family. It's an extended family.
It is.
And when someone has something to celebrate, we celebrate. When they're sad, we're sad with them. And we get our strength from this wonderful school. We are blessed. That's why we've been here so long.
Sure.
I agree.
So I had given a little assignment, and I didn't give it to anyone in particular because I figured that somebody would be in a position to maybe follow up and actually do it, which was to try to locate the yearbooks from the years where you had started here. And so I know that you've got some yearbooks there. How did we do?
Well, we didn't go quite as far back as someone who's at the end of the table.
So
We go back to 76, and I think 73 is what we needed for you, correct?
73, 74. I think I came in 73.
You
Did
came
we?
in the fall of 70.
I don't know that they had printing back then in those days.
Right.
I
So
think this is the
if anyone out there in the world has access to or a copy of the St. Luke's 1973-74 yearbook, we would love to have a copy of that as well.
I'm going to do some research on that.
Okay.
That's
And
the 91.
have y'all looked at these yet? Have you had a chance to
I have
peruse?
these.
Okay.
I have these. These are when my children
Mhm.
were all here.
Yes. Yeah.
So they each have copies that I've given them.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, we
I
have
said, it's your, passing them on.
I wanted to say something. I said this other day.
Please.
Mrs. Carson hired me, and she's one of the founders
too.
of the school,
Mhm.
and that meant a lot to me. And I was close to her, and we all were.
She hired me too.
She hired you, and
Certainly did.
they told me I had to tell the rooftop story.
Tell the rooftop story, as I've heard this. This is a good one. Yeah.
Well, when we had PE outside, I had a volleyball net right by the preschool building. That's now the preschool building. And we would go outside and play volleyball. And we only had 3 or 4 balls. And the last volleyball went on the roof, and it's a flat roof. So I got the big idea to climb up the ladder and hoist myself up on the roof. And as soon as I did, that's what I told you, as soon as I got up there on my stomach, I knew I wasn't going to be able to get down.
Right.
So long story short,
Imagine that.
Mrs. Carson, who's a founder of the school, who hired me, she came to the rescue. They were going to call the fire department to get me down. And she came to the rescue and got up on the ladder and took my feet while I was dangling and guided them down to the top of the ladder. And that's how we got down.
You know, if situation had happened today, okay, number one, right, the increased and heightened awareness of things like liability and so forth, you would have never been allowed up on the roof in the first
No.
place. Secondly, if you were then on the roof and you had to get down, it wouldn't have been that method, which sounds a little bit dangerous. Number two is that we would not only have photos of it, we would probably have videos, because
Oh,
there would
yeah.
be students that would be
Oh,
there
of course.
with their phones
We'll borrow them.
recording it. It's a shame that there's no one with a photograph of that.
It's true. It really. I told him just throw me a rope. I was only like 25. I could get down on myself. Don't call the fire department, please. But Mrs. Carson came to my rescue.
So,
And tiny little Miss Carson.
Yes.
Yeah.
because it is the 60th anniversary, right? 1961 was the year that the school was founded. If there were to be some questions about the year 1961 and some things that were popular that year, this is probably a group of folks that would have the best chance of knowing
Probably so.
what those things were. So I'm going to put you all on the spot a little bit. I want to ask you a few questions, okay? Do you know what the number one song was in 1961? The number one song?
Probably.
It may have been.
It's actually
Ride, Sally, ride.
pretty obscure, wasn't that?
Splish, splash.
No, man.
No.
It was Tossing and Turning by Bobby Lewis.
Yeah.
Remember
yeah,
that one?
that's
Tom?
right.
Number one.
Number one song.
We
Yeah,
know
yeah,
that.
you know the song, see? Okay. The Academy Awards, they awarded the Best Picture in 1961 to which movie?
Give us some hints.
Yeah. Just a little hint.
The people running on the beach. What's that called?
Running on the beach.
Chariots of Fire?
Yes, but that was later.
I think it was like
That was
81,
later.
that was
That
like
was
20 years
in-
later.
Okay.
I'm sure there were people running on the beach in 1961, but no, it was
61.
it was The Apartment.
Oh yes, I remember that.
I don't remember.
Oh, yeah, that's a good
Do
movie.
you know who won the Oscar for Best Actor that year?
Jimmy Stewart.
No.
No, is it Jack? One Jack.
Jimmy?
Jack. Who was in that? Shirley MacLaine, was she in that?
No, that would have been Best Actress, right?
Yeah, but she was in that, I think, wasn't she?
I don't know.
I don't either.
Who was it?
It was Burt Lancaster.
Oh,
Elmer Gantry.
Yeah.
I was in elementary school.
And that, no, sure, right? Best Actress. Now, when I tell you this one, unless you get it first, right? When I tell you this one, you'll say, "Oh yes, of course," right? But she won for her role in Butterfield 8, Best Actress that year.
Elizabeth Taylor.
Very good.
We know
Elizabeth
that
Taylor.
one.
You
We
that
know
one.
our Elizabeth
Sure.
Taylor.
Do you know what the #1 grossing movie of 1961 was? It grossed a whopping $102 million.
Psycho or something?
No, it was a cartoon.
It was a cartoon?
Yeah.
61.
I don't know.
I don't know if it's a
I was
Disney.
13, I should know that.
101 Dalmatians.
Oh my goodness.
it was
61.
Disney.
Yeah.
And Disney, yeah.
Do you know what the #1 TV show was in 1961?
Bonanza?
That was #2.
Gunsmoke?
That was #3.
Roy Rogers.
I
So-
watched all these shows.
So you're close, right? It was just like those shows.
Okay, so it
It
Sky
was a,
King.
it was a
No.
Western. Wagon Train?
Wagon Train.
Wagon Train.
Wagon Train.
You
on
knew your
NBC,
Westerns,
#1
girl.
show.
I had to watch them with my dad.
And how about the #1 book? The New York Times best-selling #1 book in 1961.
Was that To Kill a Mockingbird?
That's what I was
Did it
thinking,
come-
To
it
Kill
came
a
out in
Mockingbird.
61 or 63?
Remember, it wasn't the best book. It was the #1 selling book.
Yeah.
That'll make sense.
I would've
We were all reading comic books.
Yeah,
I
that's
was-
true, right? It was Hawaii by James Mitch.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
I remember
Yeah,
that.
that was-
Right,
yeah,
that was
big
his
deal.
book. His
It was a big
paperbacks were always
Yeah.
they
That
were
big.
significant.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let me ask you one
We
more
didn't do
question.
so well.
No, you did all right. You did all right. What do you see as the future of St. Luke's? I mean, you've all been here long enough to see a lot of things that have changed and grown and improved. What do you think you see looking forward for the school?
Well, we were talking, we were in Diane's room, and we were so happy when the school became a high school. Because that meant so much to us, because it's been talked about since what, 1990?
Our kids.
In the 90s.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
wanted it for our children.
Really? So it took
Yes.
20-some years
Oh,
before
right.
that actually
And I
happened.
did not think it would ever happen, and when I walked on this campus, I just about cried.
Yeah.
And I think you're asking what will happen in the future. This has put a foundation, a solid foundation for our future, and I see the school just going
It's growing.
big places.
Reputation will get
Yeah.
it. Absolutely.
That's what I think. But,
Yeah, that was a really special day for, especially the
For
ones
all
that
of
had
us.
been, because we had,
Talked about it
yeah,
for
it
so
had
many
been a
years.
vision since
Mhm.
1990. So right shortly after we actually came on, and they started looking, they looked at the old Greystone
Right.
property, they looked at this property, and I don't know if
They
there was
wouldn't
some-
sell it at that time to us. They didn't want the competition, if you remember.
But we did look at a couple of places, and, and then it just went away for a while. And then Palmer came in 2008, and came to my classroom and said, "You have to keep this very quiet." And he
That's
said,
hard.
"But we're going to buy this this property."
And prior to that, you hadn't heard anything about that.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
So
This
that
was a
was a
dream.
welcome surprise.
It was a
Very welcome surprise.
that there was a group that worked hard to get this started.
and you think about Ann Carson and that little group that
Yeah.
started the school. I mean, that was just in faith, let's just get this started. The church school, what, a handful of people did this?
The
You
way I
know more
remember
about it than I do, Sandy.
her talking about the little group of ladies in the church saw this vision of a school,
Right.
and they got together. She had a typewriter
Mhm.
and a ditto machine that was donated, and they did a whole bunch of flyers, and they went to a 25-mile radius putting flyers in mailboxes. Then they found out that was against the law. And
But they
so-
kept on doing
they
it
kept-
anyway. Good for them.
and some,
I didn't know
and
that.
yes,
They-
and
they were
some
outlaws.
businessman who got a flyer gave them $800. Surely did.
To start the school.
To start the school. So it all worked out. They didn't go to jail. Who
That-
could put Miss
that's
Carson
good.
in jail?
That's good.
Today you would have probably, I don't know, today you
But
probably
today
would.
you probably wouldn't walk around handing out flyers in mailboxes,
No.
right? You would have social media.
Oh,
and some other
absolutely,
way.
absolutely.
Put it
But
on Facebook.
Yeah, they worked hard, so hard to get the school going.
I think it's a remarkable but little known or little discussed fact that the school started in 1961, but the church only started in 1959. that,
I didn't know that.
that as soon as they had gotten the church started, they then said,
Those
what else
ladies
is
were
there to
ready.
do? Let's go into a school.
They were
We got the
ready.
church was older.
And they started with 2
Remarkable.
classes, a kindergarten and a first grade class. And of course, we saw Mr. Conrad with his a little video talk about his years at St. Luke's. It was very special, very special. We were all blessed.
Well, you just go back to those stepping stones, Ann Carson and her little group, getting that going, and then Palmer and the group that got this facility. So the future, we got another
That's-
stepping
yeah.
stone to go, and it's going to be great.
You know, it's a fantastic time to sort of reflect on the idea that for all of us that have a connection to an institution like St. Luke's, all we ever really get to do is have whatever influence we can have on moving it forward during a particular period of time, and then we hand it off to other people, and they do what they can do for a particular period of time. You've had a chance to get to know or work with a lot of the folks that were there early on, and they've handed it off to others who've handed it off to others, and you know, you've been here through that. But it really does take that sense of perspective to understand that the ownership of this isn't really to any one person or even to a group of people. It's shared among and between all of the people that have had a role to play in its history. So
What made it so good. Yeah.
I sort of tease Coach Lee a little bit because I tell him I was the first head football coach at this school.
I believe you probably were, right?
When we didn't have athletics, I taught my boys and girls to flag football, and they knew the rules, everything. And we went around, it was the boys, and we went around to other schools and played competitive flag football.
And flag
with
football.
other schools.
How
And I
about
coached
that?
them.
And
I had the plays and everything.
they were undefeated,
Had
weren't
football.
they, right? That first season?
Well, yeah, I don't remember, but yes.
Right. In memory, they are undefeated.
But your point, you know, working with all the people in the past, and then Coach Lee and the staff we have now is just wonderful.
We've
And
learned so
it's-
much
Yeah,
over
and
the
so
years.
great to go to a football game and see all that. Just the first
How
football
proud.
game when they came out,
Oh, yeah, that was.
Yeah.
and I'm thinking back of my little flag football team. And
when
yeah,
the lights went on that first
Oh, yeah.
time.
That was.
it's
that was-
touching.
It was
really
very,
is.
yeah.
And we've gotten to see a lot of the first.
Sure.
And that's very meaningful.
Yep.
But we're still keeping those traditions like Spring Festival. That's always
Tug of war.
a tug of war, yes. those things are important.
Well, it's a special opportunity for me to be sitting here with over 100 years,
100.
right, of
I got 49 right here.
Well, you
I
add
know,
those
right?
together, see, and it's over 100
Yeah.
that we've put in.
So, on behalf of everybody that's been a part of St. Luke's over that time, thank you all
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
We
for
appreciate
your
you.
service to the school and for
Thank
being
you.
here with us today.
It's our pleasure.
So-
Yeah, it's our pleasure.
We will see everybody at 2 o'clock for our next guest. Go Wildcats!
So